Hello, welcome. My name is Sarah. I have an oracle card reading here for you today with a voice sounding like quite a croaky voice. I think I just haven't actually vocalised much today, so it's still warming up. Oh, there you go. So I have an oracle card reading. It is a collective message. So I hope that folks can get something from it in some way. So it's interesting. Usually I kind of open these videos with that it's a collective message, and I say that it's open and that it's general and all of that. So there was a bit of a difference when I pulled these cards this week, because I actually asked, what does the collective need to know? And I don't usually ask that. I usually just open myself up to a collective message. It could, could be anything. But without really intending to as well, that was the thing. It was just the question that was in my mind. It was, what does the collective need to know? And then that kind of got me to sort of thinking about like need to know basis, which is a bit contradictory, isn't it? Because if a collective message is for lots of people potentially, need to know basis sort of implies that that is only for a select few. And I think that there are facets of this message that are going to be for a select few people, a person. We could even kind of whittle it down to maybe one person. But then there are other facets of it that are much more broadly applicable. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is that I absolutely always read the cards from left to right. There is never any deviation in that for me. I read left to right. Okay, always. And when I pulled these cards and when I sat and started to do the meditations with them, there was just this very strong sense of I need to read these cards from right to left. I need to read them from right to left. Dextro-sinistrally. Dextro-sinistrally. Is that right? Yes. It's that word. From right to left. And immediately and very strongly, it indicated to me Japanese. Very strongly Japanese, because I know that there are numerous languages, unlike English, where it's read from right to left, like Arabic, Hebrew, Aramaic, Farsi. There's quite a few, but it was so specifically and strongly coming through with Japan. So with those two things being said, for you to bear in mind, I'm going to get into the message of the cards. So after I had pulled the 4 cards that are out in the main spread, I split the deck, which you can just do as a reader because it will give you some more information in one way or another, but I split the deck, and on that split there was this individual, and they didn't start communicating with me immediately. In fact, they kind of presided over, they presided over, they very much had the energy of watching and presiding over what I was doing, which was, in this case, sitting with these cards and receiving the message that they were communicating. But he was somewhat watchful, and a very strong presence, not in a threatening way, not in a ominous way, but his energy was very present when I was sat with these cards, very present now. Excuse me, one moment. Sorry, I just had to draw my curtain because it's getting really bright. So on the bottom of the deck, after I'd shuffled and pulled the main spread, was this rather beautiful magic card, which wants to be shown. Tapping it, wants to be shown. So the authors of the deck say that this symbol, this energy, is of the infinite intelligence of the Great Spirit that makes up the fundamental fabric of the universe. And it talks very much about synchronicity, which meaningful coincidence, right? Meaningful coincidence. It all has meaning, even things that seem acausal. Like, okay, so this was a bit of a note for me as a reader, which that it has meaning. It has meaning. Okay. So I'm just gonna get it. So reading from right to left. The first card is this Ghost Dance card. I have notes from my meditation on my laptop. So there was something very important about the 22. I'm not really that familiar at all with numerology and all of that, but I do just personally find that I pay a lot of attention to 11, 22, 33 is here as well, and they are what's known as their master numbers. And there's something about building with 22. There's some association with master builder, the mastery in building. So I started to very much get the energy of like an old soul with this. I've written an old soul with an association to 22. some sort of mastery. So an old soul who has mastered, was masterful, had mastery. And then it was coming through this idea of a glimpse, like a glimpse of what this is, a glimpse of what this particular energy is, of what this soul, who this soul is. But I've put a previous glimpse of a deep past. It really was coming through so strongly, as the imagery on the cards suggests. If old soul, like deep past, but it was actually coming through with this historic, which I suppose to me, when I say deep past, that kind of conjures or inspires maybe a certain kind of image of something, the deep past, in a sense. But historic is something a bit different. It suggests something a bit different, right, to me. Historic. So, yes, okay, right, a glimpse. Then I've put through a dream, question mark. So, glimpsing something of the past, something historic, but through a modality such as dreaming. It's not reading a history book. It's not visiting a museum or something like that, which I think is why I'm trying to make the distinction between deep past and historic. It's having a glimpse of the past, but through like a dream. That would be how it's accessed, or that has been how it was accessed. Yeah, the dream was a window. It provided a partial view. So there's this, yeah, like idea of a glimpse, a quick glimpse, a brief glimpse, which brought in the idea of low visibility again, which came through really strongly in my last reading. Although that was talking about something else, that theme is still kind of there, but low visibility in this particular context, in this message, was more in the sense of like having viewed something but only very briefly. So yeah, a brief window that provided insight. The gift of it, the gift of it was insight. So there's a gift. It feels like the gift is what was seen, what was glimpsed. Because it could say that that would be a gift as well, or a skill or an ability that somebody has if they can glimpse moments, historic moments, things from their deep past, if they can access that in their dream state, that is a gift. Right, it's a skill that they have. They are capable of doing that. It's interesting. It would be their wealth. Somebody who can access access other timelines, other spaces in history, in time and space. They can do that, however they do that, whether it's through the dream space or not. There could be numerous different ways that somebody could do that. But if they can do that, that's part of their wealth. It's something that they can do. Right, so that's a bit of a shout back to my last reading as well, because it was talking about, in part, what is your wealth? What is your wealth when you take everything away? Got nothing really to do with money, nothing to do with land that you own or any shit like that. It's like, what do you have? What are your talents? What are your skills? What are your abilities? Because that constitutes your true wealth, right? I feel like I've gone off piste a little bit there. But so there's two gifts that are wanting to be distinguished here. There's the gift that is the talent of being able to access those portals and see into some other space or some other dimension, some other realm. But the insight that was gleaned from this brief glimpse was a gift that was given to them. It was given to the one that was accessing. Does that make sense? And this is, yes, this is very much where the historic stuff started to come in. I've written a vibe of the historic. Right, yes, but right. So this is where I started to be like, what? Excuse me. But right, the synchronicity, the meaningful coincidence, the infinite intelligence of the Great Spirit, right? Because because of the reading from right to left, there is a bit of red and white as well. But it was just, I was just straight into like Japanese feudalism. It just started communicating to me. It started specifically with the Edo period, which was the last period of feudalism in Japan after many hundreds of years. The Edo period was the last of it. It's got the Edo period. Right, and it was ruled, please bear with me, it was ruled by a shogunate until the abolition of feudalism in 1867, 1868 with the Meiji restoration, was it? So shogunate is really important. Something very important about shogun here. This luminous warrior was above this ghost dance as he was present. Right, so shogunate really, really stood out. Samurai kind of came through a bit as well. But again, that kind of took me to, I think it was 2 readings back. And I don't think I even mentioned it in the video, but there was a Queen of Swords there and I got something about samurai there. But it didn't come through in a big way. So I don't think that was the time to really mention it. But here, it's shogun. Right, and a shogun was a hereditary commander-in-chief, right? They had a lot of military power. They had a lot of military power, and it kind of weakened the head of state. So the head of state was the Mikado, the emperor, who, from what I understand, was more of a figurehead. Didn't necessarily have much power. The power was with the shogunate. Samurais were like elite soldiers. They weren't as powerful. The shoguns were the ones that kind of held all the power, and they were very military. They were the military. They were the military. Okay. So I got all that through my meditation. Started to come through. The authors of the deck write for this card: when ancestors are honoured, they bring harmony to us. Honour the spirits of the ancestors and receive their lessons and gifts. So the next card that came out was this giveaway card, right? So this giveaway card, this energy, it just took me further in. It just took me further into Japan, because there was the right to left, and then here I was drawn up here, and then it goes down. So the right to left, and then the column, the reading columns, top to bottom, which is the traditional, very traditional Japanese way of writing and reading, that is called tatagaki. Please excuse my almost definite mispronunciation. So it was confirming that again. It was saying like, yep, keep going, keep going. Trust the meaningful coincidence, because I was honestly very amazed. I was like, did not expect feudal Japan to be coming through in one of my readings at all. So it was, so I'm saying that I think this was this was reassurance for me to be like, yeah, come on, it's meaningful synchronicity. Yeah. Well, so there was that about the tatagaki, which was sort of urging me to, it's almost like keep reading into that, right? Keep reading it like that. Keep reading it as feudal Japan. Feudal Japan. But then this as well, because the cards are like this. So it's like this arm reaching and offering it to the cards that I'm going to be discussing. It was coming through as this offering, an offering from this kind of deep past, historic old soul energy, which I'll be perfectly honest was kind of coming through as like the soul of an old shogun. The soul of an old shogun. And there's something, what I was saying about, it was a title that was hereditary. It was an inherited title, right? And there's something here, because the giveaway, this is about, so the authors of the deck, this card is stated as being about sort of gifting that which is most precious. And they say like you can only give what is truly yours. It's not about giving to others what you no longer want. you can only give what's truly yours. So there's something about this luminous warrior energy that's presiding over, that's watching. Because this was coming, it was coming through with this idea of like returning something. It's like returning something from this deep past. Possibly returning an aspect of something. Okay. I think the thing, regardless of what personal beliefs you have, I think it's very much worth if you don't believe in, I suppose, sort of okay, my personal belief is that our soul is eternal. Our soul is eternal, and we actually have numerous different lifetimes. You know, our souls have many goes round on planet Earth, in different lives and different timelines, different time periods, right? Different time periods. Our souls are deeply interesting because they've lived numerous lifetimes in numerous different time periods, in numerous different circumstances, places. Right? But the kind of catch with that is when a soul kind of is born into a new life, they don't access to the memories that they have from their previously lived lives. That is my personal belief, right? Okay, even if yours doesn't align with that and you think, oh, what the fuck are you talking about, it's very much worth just kind of suspending any disbelief for the duration of me trying to communicate this message here. My recommendation would be like to suspend disbelief if you're not kind of usually kind of open to that. But right, so there's this idea of a gift. You can only give what's truly yours, right? Soul of an old shogun. Okay. So I've written here returning sight. Returning sight. And then I got the word deliverance. The action of being set free. And then I wrote emancipation. Deliverance of an old soul. Deliverance of an old soul. So setting free an old soul, possibly. An old soul has been set free. Freedom for an old soul. But then I put the end of feudalism. The end of feudalism. This is not giving to others what you no longer want. there's something there in what I've just said about not what's meant to stay in the past stays in the past, right? There's something there about what's meant to stay in the past stays in the past. It's the things that are meant to come, the gifts that are meant to come through will come through. Infinite intelligence of the Great Spirit. Other things they're meant to stay in the past. That is where they will stay. And I've just written loads about Japanese feudalism. Well, not loads. So in Japanese feudalism, which it also, like, because Europe had its own version of feudalism and that was not coming through at all. It was specifically Japanese. But right, so it was a system where the power was decentralized, right? There wasn't like a central government. The lords, known as the daimyo, controlled land, and the vassals, so the samurai, provided military service, elite soldiers, in exchange for land and protection. So instead of a strong central government, power was distributed among the powerful daimyo, the lords, so they controlled vast territories. The shoguns, the military rulers, distributed land to their loyal subjects who became lords. So they were the ones that gave the land to the daimyo. I'm just being reminded again of what is meant to stay in the past will stay in the past. The system was abolished by the Meiji Restoration in 1868, which was like the modernization, or the start of the modernization of Japan, wasn't it? But the centralization of power as well. There's something, what's meant to stay in the past will stay in the past. It's not about any kind of like spiritual soul debt or bad juju kind of being brought into the present. That's not what's going on. It's not what's going on. There's something wants to be said here about it might be as simple as like feudalism is in the past. It's in the past. It isn't something that's going to come back. Right? It's not, the gift from the past isn't the past giving you what it no longer wants. Right? Japan reached a point where they didn't want feudalism anymore. That's why it was abolished, right? This is about a gift that is most precious. It's not about giving others what you no longer want. It's not about bringing an old system that likely was deeply, deeply unfair to a vast majority of people. It's not about bringing that. He's watching me, wants me to go back. He's looking at me. There you go, this guy. Or gal. So this is an energy that doesn't have any enemies in this world or the next. This is like a golden soul, gold soul. It says his power comes not from his sword. Right. Definitely not a samurai. But from speaking the truth at all costs. Focus on power, wisdom, and beauty. Oh, okay, I know where he's put it. Okay, there was something, there's two other things here. I've written, the lords, shogun, and samurai will have to have given away some of their power when feudalism was abolished, or they would have had to have given up their power to some extent in the way that it had been, because that system was abolished, right? They would have had to have kind of given that away because it wasn't truly there, because it wasn't truly theirs. It wasn't true power. Wasn't true power. None of this is talking about, you know, we've been mentioning like shoguns and military rule and samurai. It's not, it's making precisely that point. It's making precisely that point. It's like, it's not, there's a kind of power that he's trying to point out, that he's trying to have us see. A power that's a lot more important, or it serves us in a much more powerful, wise and beautiful way. It's making the distinction from that kind of aggression, really, or that sort of domination, that you know, that violence that comes with like military rule. It's like the power, the wisdom and the beauty is very much of the Great Spirit. It's the fundamental fabric of the universe, right? So the only thing I wrote about the difference, I mean, it had similarities and differences, right? Japanese feudalism and European feudalism. Similarities and differences. The only one that I've written down was about social structure and how the Japanese feudalism differed from the European. So they both had distinct social structures, which usually had sort of like peasants at the bottom and then the knights above, nobles and the king at the top in European. So I've written, Japanese had a more diverse social structure with merchants and artisans having higher social standing than in feudal Europe. Artisans. Artisans, a worker in a skilled trade, especially one that involves making things by hand. It's pulling on that. What are your gifts? What are your talents? What is it you can do? What do you bring? If you take everything and everyone else away, what is it? And there's something about the artisan here, the artisan aspect, how they were higher in social standing. Because for me as a person, yes, I'm having sort of like, you know, shoguns and samurais, Japanese feudalism kind of indicated in readings, so coming through really strongly. But I am definitely someone who, oh, shoguns, bet they had really beautiful, exquisitely made armour and dressing, you know, like really exquisitely made stuff. And when I think of samurais, which I'm sure is the case for many people, I think about how just incredibly amazing those swords are. And I watched a programme a couple of years ago probably about a family in Japan who still made samurai swords, and they were like the samurai swords, but they were just this incredibly humble family who lived kind of in the mountains a bit, and they had a workshop, and it took them like 2 or 3 years to make one sword. And you know that people still wanted them, but it was just this absolute amazing, incredible craftsmanship, because he was a man. Craftspersonship, you know, just, it was absolutely beautiful. So there's something that he's wanting to point out. The thing that is truly yours can never be taken away. It is absolutely an innate asset. It's those skills. It's those skills. Because if we sort of look back through time at different periods, again, I mean, I remember, like, you know, the beautiful kind of clothes, the beautiful things, like the things that were made, whether that's clothing, whether that's art, whether that's architecture. And they were made by people, they were made by regular people who were very skilled. It's what the shogun here is pointing out. The soul of the shogun is pointing out that. Because there's a tendency, an awful tendency, I think, a lot, to overlook the importance of that, but like the power of that as well. How that can't ever be taken away. And when we look back through time, when we look back, maybe in that more historic sense, if we look in books or we go to a museum, what are those things showing us? What are we actually kind of celebrating and putting at the forefront there? It's like the beauty often, isn't it? Like beautiful objects, beautiful things, interesting, useful things that were made by people. Because that's always there, isn't it? That's always there. Really, yeah, really pointing out like the artisanal generally like the artisanal, because those people are always in the greater population, aren't they? And you know, a soul that has lived different lives, numerous different lives, think of all that they have done. Think of all that they have done. That who we are in the present day incarnated as can have access to. We can have access to some of it. That's it. Gifted what's truly yours. Gifting that which is most precious. Oh, it's like things that have been mastered in previous lifetimes. But it's saying the thing that was mastered, it's not like whole countries and whole fucking systems like that. It's saying mastered. What was mastered, there is maybe like a particular skill that involves the hands. Maybe. Particular skill that was mastered in a previous incarnation. And so, right, so soul retrieval was the next card. But it was lost. It's been lost. And now it's returned. It's being returned. So soul retrieval, right? Soul retrieval is a practice that helps us recover a part of ourselves that we've lost, right? Which is what I've just been saying, okay? Retrieving aspects of our soul from past lives, from the deep past, is another thing, or another kind of iteration. Because we can soul retrieve, right? Like something that we used to do a couple of years ago that we don't do anymore. We can retrieve that and bring that back. So there's a practice to do that. Recover a part of yourself that you lost. You used to love doing something 2-3 years ago, but you don't have time for anymore. Recover that. Retrieve that. Is perhaps it's feeling to make the distinction there, that there's doing that, which is an aspect of soul retrieval, but there's also this kind of deeper, more elusive, or more kind of esoteric, magical, other aspect to that, which is kind of retrieving things that, like I say, like from the deep past. They're things that we have absolutely well and truly forgotten. We've forgotten them. So soul retrieval. Yeah, so the soul is receiving. So if something is being returned here, this is the point of reception, of where it's being received. And then it was very interesting, because if we look at the images in these cards next to each other, there are the same colours, see? The same kind of colours, this gorgeous blue light here with this butterfly, and here in this luminous warrior. It's like that's what's being, excuse my stomach making funny noises. There's something, this luminous warrior and this ghost dance, this is an aspect of somebody's soul. It's like an aspect of somebody's soul from the deep past. But it has a historical context that may very well be actual Japanese feudalism. Literally something to do with Japan, yeah. I don't know for sure, but it's worth considering, isn't it? So there's something being returned, and it's coming through as like information, remembrance. So remembering a skill, remembering information, remembering who you were, remembering this particular time or this particular experience, remembering it, or having some of the remembrance returned, because it belongs to your soul, right? It belongs to the soul. I've written the colours are returning, so it's like whatever, yeah. This, it's like the colours are returning. Colours are returning. It's this sort of communicating that depth, something being forgotten in the kind of mists of time, right? Personal time, collective time. This is where it's starting to come back in. It's like the remembrance is perhaps coming back in, yeah. And then I wrote for this, I got the word insignia, which can be an emblem of military rank. So it was kind of, it's that, it's like the colours match, the insignia, the spiritual insignia, the energetic, an energetic signature, the energetic insignia. It's what the colours are representing. There's the likeness, there's the lightness. Like the energy of it is returning. Soul insignia, yeah. An energetic emblem of the soul. And it shows. Because it was interesting, what I got with the it shows, but I got with this, when I sat with the card, just literally like the movement of a butterfly. You know when they come out of their chrysalis, or when they've been caught in the rain even, and they just very gently kind of move their wings to kind of dry them down. It was that I was just getting this really sort of small, very gentle but perceptible movement. And then so that, and it's new, it's like this idea of having come out of the chrysalis, just those first kind of small movements of a newly born thing, something that's starting to show again. It's starting to show again. But then because of that, because I was getting so distinctly like the motion of butterfly wings, it brought in the idea of butterfly effect, which is like to set something in motion, right? The idea that a small occurrence, can influence a much larger, more complex system. I feel like she's now looking at me. Fundamental fabric of the universe. It's like if the insignia shows on one, it'll have resonance for many or for more. It's that idea of like need to know basis as well, right? It might be that there aren't that many people with this particular insignia or resonant insignia, because although they're similar, it's not the same. Do you know what I mean? It's like resonant insignia. But once it starts to show on one, it'll start to ripple through, it'll start to have an effect beyond, outside of them. Yeah, the flutter is the beginning of something, the effect has a far reach. Right, so then the final card out in the spread was this seer card. So again, the red and white, I think that was still confirming Japan to me. And yeah, the same. So some of the background colouring is the same, so it was kind of linking to this. And I said, didn't I, about sort of returning sight to the seer. They can see their soul, they can see this aspect of their soul. Because a seer energy, someone like this, that is what they would do. They would do such things as get glimpses in dreams, or possibly like altered states of consciousness. I've actually written down here like deep concentration. So right. Yeah, this was really fucking interesting with it. There was this, I got true sight. And I've written, the true sight has become prismatic and is able to see in many directions, formed, separated, distributed. I'm not distributed. It's the second time I've kind of distribution, formation, separation, distribution, formed, separated, distributed. And we talk about prismatic colours, kind of means like varied, brilliant, a really vast array. So it was talking about like, definitely like this, someone's sight, true sight has expanded, has opened up. And then I got, the sight can bend to refocus, redirect. And there was this idea of deflection, because light can deflect when it comes into contact with different mediums, which in this particular context, I was kind of taking as like an analogy for like a different medium, like a different energy from a different realm, energy from a different space. The light, can deflect and refocus itself so it can see it. It's something about it. They're able to see it now. Able to see in many directions, different energies, different realms. Yeah, able to view dimensions prismatically. So that is like being able to see the facets and the detail and some aspects and different perspectives and different, I just keep wanting to say facets. Just like reading geometry, like reading geometric structures. What? Reading geometry? Like sacred geometry, right? Not Euclidean, I don't think. I mean, I mentioned platonic solids as well in another reading, but mentioned. Okay, interesting. But yeah, they are able to deflect their sight, see across a spectrum, abundant sight, an abundant capacity to see. because some insignia has now been returned to them. They recognize something, they can identify it with who they are now. They can incorporate it, they can use it because it's theirs, right? That's why it's been returned to them. That's why it's been returned to them. So the seer, one who looks, focuses energy and attention, their being, on looking, a state of deep concentration. Someone who inquires, there's curiosity. And I've written like the power of inquiry, I've written self-inquiry as well. So it's somebody who, they definitely look at themselves in a deep way, right? Which is, because they do that, they can do it. They can see both ways, right? They look deep within, they can see deep without. So if with soul retrieval, there's that idea of retrieving parts of ourselves, and then there's this idea of like learning to journey, to recover our original nature. It's like this is definitely somebody who has learnt to journey. Their original nature, right? Nature with the butterfly. It's somebody's reclaimed an aspect of their original nature. It's this luminous warrior. Power, wisdom and beauty. Remember the right things. Bring the right things forward. What's meant to stay in the past stays in the past. So the seer. This is a type of person as well that kind of came through. The seer is a type of person. One who looks, focuses energy and attention. They have the capacity to see beyond the obvious details of life. So it's someone with keen discernment, and that, as I'm saying, there's curiosity, or there's just this sense of inquiry, like they like to inquire, they want to understand, they want to know, so they look. But it's that idea of true sight, right? So it's not necessarily, well, it's not like looking to other people or looking in books or looking, although I would say that they probably do that as well in the modern world, yeah. But it's this true sight. It's like accessing the hidden realms, right? Which hidden is sort of things that we can't see with our naked eye. They're not in our 3D experience, not in our 3-dimensional material experience. They're hidden, they're unseen. But this one sees it. And because they've learnt to do that journey, they have access to this deep past. Or beautifully, actually, I think maybe what's more accurate to say is this deep past, this aspect of their soul has come to meet them. It's come to meet them. It's like they've been looking because they're the seer, and they can journey and they can retrieve. And so, yes, shit, yeah. So it's come to meet them. It's come to gift them, right? Give them what's theirs. That's beautiful. I think that's it. There's other stuff. like I've mentioned about like the platonic solids, I've referenced back to a couple of my previous readings here. There's more that I think will come through in subsequent readings. Readings still to come. Subsequent, right? Okay. I really do hope that has been yeah, that's beautiful message, absolutely beautiful message. So okay, take care, bye-bye. Such an awkward sign on and sign off for these videos, ridiculous.